Everyone okay? Yeah. So we have our next speaker. Her name is Natasha. What is she? She is an esport host or showcaster, if you may. All right. So you are interested, excited to hear what she has to say. Do drop by the speaker booth. We have beanbags. You can sit on chairs. You can stand around. And let's see what Natasha has to say. All right. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Natasha, and I would be someone that you would say doesn't really have your usual type of day job. You can say that my job is somewhat freelance. I'm usually in the same line as a freelancer, and my job is basically a job-to-job basis. But I would say that this job is very, very specialized, and it is something that is currently in the entertainment industry. As esports comes up, I would say that we're more esports entertainment, if anything, more in line to, I would say, normal sports. But anyways, otherwise, I'm also known as Tash Bunny. That's what people call me by my in-game name, or rather for gamers call it an IGN. So yeah, if you guys have any question throughout this whole talk, feel free to ask me at any time at all. Don't mind bothering me or cutting me off. More than happy to assist. Okay. So I think like one of the biggest questions I get when I'm making TikToks or videos or even on the stage is how exactly did I get a job or career as an esports host in Malaysia? And I think if you guys know, it's always usually the same people doing multiple type of games and esports on the market. And I would say that we should start with the bare minimum. What is esports? And I think, like, I don't know if you guys have been following the Olympics recently. They announced that they have esports on that. I would have to disagree with them because what they chose isn't necessarily esports. So coming by, it's a short for electronics sports. That's like the bare minimum. But I have to say that it is a competitive form of esports, and it's on various platforms such as PC, mobile, or even console like the PlayStation 5 or even Xbox. And nowadays, to qualify as an esport, you kind of have to have like a minimum, I should say, following or even a minimum number of people playing that game competitively. And some of them include, I think you guys know Dota 2 or even CSGO, that's the OG. If you guys are more mobile gamers, you guys would know PUBG Mobile, Mobile Legends Bang Bang. And currently for myself, what I'm doing right now is Valorant as well as, oh, I have a Valorant gang right up there. Love that for you. As well as I would say you have a lot more other extra like Free Fire as well. Regardless of what games there are, there's so many different ones. There's NBA 2K, there is Madden. I think if you guys play Mortal Kombat, that is also considered an esports. There's so many different types. So what is an esports host? So this is where I primarily came from, and it's typically similar to what you expect from a TV host or a radio presenter. We generally set the tone, the flow, and we present and regulate the flow of the event. But for esports, to be an esports host, generally you do need to have that knowledge on the esport itself. So technically nowadays, people will just kind of like get a host, but they don't necessarily know what exactly is going on with a particular, I would say, event. But for esports, you kind of need to have that information because you need to regulate the story. You need to tell the story. You need to ask the right questions. Technically, also kind of similar to what I expect from maybe an esports journalist. And the idea of us is basically to narrate a story. Technically, okay, imagine you have two teams playing right now, and in one team you have this player who is maybe 40 years old. So in esports years, that's kind of old. And you would say like, okay, this is the story of this person, so I'm telling the story. I'm the host, I'm telling the story of this person, I'm hyping up the crowd and telling the crowd why exactly you should be vouching for this 40-year-old player. Or maybe there's a very young player, 13 years old. Why exactly is he a protege? That is the story that I would be telling. And of course, when you are doing esports hosting, there's also two types of jobs. Technically, you have the host and also you have the analyst. So the analyst is technically the person who breaks down the game, gives the information that a shoutcaster can't give. So that moving into that, this is an esports shoutcaster. So think of it of like an NBA or a basketball or even a football commentator. They're the guys behind the plays saying what's happening. Or like imagine like in football, you're like, oh, your ball goes to, I don't know, David Beckham. I don't know if he's still playing. I don't watch football. I'm so sorry. But anyways, they're the guys talking behind the game. And in that situation, you sort of tell people like, okay, in this situation, in this round, why was this game so important? Why does this round so important? What exactly did this player do to make it so important, so I would say, need to be highlighted moments. So this is what your job is. And on top of that, you bring the hype. You bring the hype in a way where sometimes when you watch a game or you watch football, you think of 11 players chasing a ball. That's not very exciting, is it? But when you have a person behind that, giving the information and getting excited when something big happens, like, oh my God, that guy just scored a goal. When you hear that guy yelling, yeah, you guys yell goal like that, you guys get so excited, right? But if, say, there wasn't anyone yelling goal behind that, you don't know anything about it, you wouldn't feel as excited. So that is the job of a shoutcaster. And technically, because of how intricate some games can be, the job of a shoutcaster to explain why exactly that player did is so important. If you looked at it, you're like, just like, oh, I don't know what happened, this guy just got shot. But behind that shot that person did, or behind that play that person did, was probably some teamwork or mechanics that have happened, and which is why it's so important that you get to break down what exactly happens in a round and why it was important. So what's the difference? Because in my career of esports, I've had shoutcasters themselves say like, hey, I can host. I've had esports hosts say like, hey, I can shoutcast, and that includes myself. So just to give a little bit of a breakdown on how I started my career, I started off as a host, and eventually I moved to shoutcasting during the pandemic, where esports hosts were typically not needed during the times because everything was online. So the difference is, so this is an example of an esports host. I have no clue how to press play on this. What do I press? Yeah, it's a video actually. So this is technically what happens during a hosting. Thank you. Oh, do you guys not have internet? Is that why? No worries. So technically, a lot of my events take place either online or in studio. So in studio happens in Malaysia. Usually some of the places that happens to have a studio for esports in Malaysia is like, if you know Quill City Mall nearby here, yeah, there's technically 2 studios there, one on the top side and one in the basement. As well as, I think there's a lot of other places in PJ as well, a lot smaller. But for bigger productions where they cannot fly us out, it will be online. So generally for us shoutcasters or even hosts, we have like a little, I would say, a production area in our house. Technically, you have a monitor, a good mic, and maybe even a green screen. Does that work? No worries, no rush, no rush. But yeah, while we wait, is there any questions you guys want to ask me first? No questions? Okay. So technically, this is how it looks like at that moment. So this is one of the events I actually hosted and shoutcasted last year. This is the VCT Game Changers Asia Pacific, and this was done in our houses itself. So sometimes you don't really need that huge budget studio that you would see on TV, but generally it should work quite well. Oh, you don't have the timing for it. It's okay. Let me just move it forward. Sorry, I should have warned you guys that I had a video. Yeah. So generally, it's okay, I'll just move it forward for you. So generally, for this particular moment, you can see that we have, sorry, I think it was somewhere here. All right, so this is what I would usually do.
Singular slot to the Game Changers Championship over at Berlin. And it's going to be one hell of a packed competition because all these teams, they've been insanely talented, and they've shown us a burst of growth that's been unfathomable, right? So I can't wait to see them on the server today.
Yeah, when you speak about growth, some of these teams start off on the lowest of low. When you think about it, from Zol Maraki, who's shown such great growth from beginning to end.
Yes.
We saw one of the biggest comebacks of all time from Orangutan 11-1 and Nigma Galaxy's statement comeback in stage 3.
All right, so that's technically a sort of example of what a host would do. So it's at the beginning of the show, pre-show, before everything happens, I'm telling the story of what happened during this tournament. I don't know if you guys heard, I was telling 3 different stories in that moment. I was telling each stories what they've achieved and why it was very important and what to look out for here, and that's exactly what my job is. So typically a host either can be solo or duo, but in this situation it's duo. And in this situation it's because I was also doing a multi-role here as well, which is as an analyst, which is why I say that as a host, you typically do need that information or that, I would say, knowledge, because it is also your job to also do desk work. But that is for an esports host. We also have a shoutcaster. So this is what I would do. Oh, you okay? So a shoutcaster is something like this.
Especially for that round, and reads it over and over again. It's whether or not they want to overextend, but this time around, they just waited on the corner, and I think they had already predicted it. Now, collar inside. And you saw the shots as well. Hoping someone would push out.
I don't think it would have reached. But
Honestly, it wouldn't. I'm just guessing that what they're trying to do is just kind of like mess around with the information gathering. And I'm hoping for these defaults to be great for those opening picks. For X10 rather. And Ayumi pushing out here. Ooh, bold play. This would be big. This might be a flank.
Muffin, she's gonna spearhead the push here.
You want
They're
to
ready to
fight
capitalize off of this cosmic divide to try and keep them isolated, to try and keep them back from going within the site. They're gonna have to play retake here, null command out to deny any much more utility to be thrown. And now's their time to commit. Here comes out the spike plant. Muffin positions herself in hell.
This is interesting. It's the same combination as before. Cosmic Divide as
Counter.
well as the null command. I'm wondering if this is their secret sauce. A Neri popping out the showstopper. Will she get someone is the question. No, she doesn't. And the flash comes through. Baby TZ is the one who can just shoot her down. Poly as one. Baby TZ as well. The aggression. They come in from all different angles as Baby TZ is chasing. She wants blood. Iceberg gets two though regardless. And suddenly, the equilibrium happens as Iceberg wants to make that space. Ayumi ready for that backstab from the backside. She is waiting for that exit frags because I don't think that they're able to win this, and she might be able to get one in the end.
Yeah, but that's mere consolation.
So technically, that is what an esports shoutcaster does. You can hear the hype coming through. But if you were to watch that without any audio, you would generally not have any excitement. You would not have any emotions about what's happening on the screen. So that's exactly what you expect from a shoutcaster. And I would say that one of the biggest things that you need to know about shoutcaster is that you are able to do that for about 20, 30 rounds in a row. Maybe generally you have to do that maybe 90 rounds in a row, technically, if you're running about 2 to 3 rounds in a day. So there's a lot of stamina needed as an esports shoutcaster compared to a host or an analyst. Now, coming back into what I was talking about as skills. So as a host, I think in general, I think this is very broad, I would say, definition about how to be a host, is that you need to be charismatic. You need to be on your toes. You need to be able to talk, put a flow in, and able to create a compelling story for the teams as well as the players. You need to sell the story about why exactly this player who is 12 years old is worth looking at and following on social media. Why is this player who is not doing so great, you need to have an eye on them. So technically you are trying to sell why exactly is this moment so special. You need to be able to ask the right questions. So technically, if I were an esports host and I don't really understand as deep, in depth about the game, and I want to ask the analyst on the desk like, hey, I saw this happen earlier. Why was that important? Because at the end of the day, not everyone is going to be super smart at the game. So your job is to make sure that people are going to be able to explain it like they're 5. And also, able to quickly change and control the flow of the show and tournament when needed. So as we know, technology, while it does make our life better, it also can make our life pretty hard, especially when things don't go as needed. Sometimes the computer lags, sometimes a player is broken, sometimes someone's internet breaks, and we need to buy more time on the desk. We cannot go on break. What do? Well, we have to buy time. We have to make sure that the audience is engaged and also interested. So that's also one of the key factors or key jobs as a host. And last but not least, spontaneous. And I would say spontaneity is important because sometimes when you say, imagine if you go to an event and you see one guy just going, well, it's not a great day right now, but well, according to this, so you're just reading something, someone just reading. It makes you think like you're not really interested in the event. You're not really interested in what they do. So when you're spontaneous and you're on the desk and you're just quick to say like, oh, you can say that this person popped off because he popped some heads. It's not necessarily the funniest joke, but it makes some people laugh. It lightens the atmosphere. So that's exactly what you need as well, spontaneity. Now, how do you get there as a host? Now, I think I made a TikTok last night actually about this because a lot of people were asking me, how exactly did I make it as a host? And I would have to say that how I started might not necessarily be the same way that everyone else starts. Because when I started, it was in I would say, the infancy of esports. People didn't necessarily have the right tools or the communities just yet. But for me, I would say that how I got there for my time was that I joined talent searches. And at that time, I think Astro EGG Network was actually doing a talent search for channel 800. I believe it is now. So I just joined it. It was like a long line of people wanting to be a host, and I managed to do it. I didn't really stay there long, but I was thankful for the opportunity. Now, coming to opportunities here, I know there's 2 games that actually does yearly caster searches or host searches, and that would be PUBG Mobile and MLBB. So just join it and just try your luck, perhaps. And number 2 is to join any or just volunteer for any tournaments. Whether it be the smallest tournament on planet, just join it. Because you never know who is watching. And that's exactly how I got my break in shoutcasting. Because even though the event is small, even though the pay is very low or not even there, the first thing you must do, because this is entertainment, remember, this is technically somehow the same way you want to break into music or even you want to break into, I would say, acting, is that to put as much information or the spotlight on yourself out there. So nowadays, there's TikTok, there's YouTube Shorts, IG Reels, there's YouTube itself, WhatsApp even, send it to your friends. Just make all the videos of you hosting. Like say there's an event right now, like even I'm talking right here right now, and it's not even like something big, but you record yourself for it, you put yourself online, and then someone sees it, they might just take you. So that is how you get there. Basically is to make that opportunity for yourself because nowadays it's so competitive. So coming into skills as a shoutcaster, charisma is definitely needed. You need to be able to talk. But for some reason, a lot of people think that being able to talk is one of the most needed skills for shoutcasting. I have to disagree because you need to be quick to catch what's happening in-game and articulate it clearly to the audience. Because in this situation, if you don't understand the game, you wouldn't be able to catch what's on the screen. And on top of the screen is something that's happening really. Game knowledge is also very, very important, and you also need to able to analyze on the fly, which is kind of the reason why you have 2 shoutcasters at a time. One is what we call a hype caster. Or I would say a play-by-play. This person shows and says everything that happens on the screen in real time. And then you have the color caster. So that's something that I would do mostly, is basically after all the action has happened, there's a cooldown period, I take that time to break down what happened and why exactly that play was important, what kind of synergy this team brings. So that's what exactly is happening there. There's 2 types of casters. If you're like me, you're high energy, you're go, go, go all the time, you can go for play-by-play. But if you think you're a little bit mellow, you like analyzing, you can go for a color caster. It's a little bit more slow-paced. Now, you have to be able to work with different shoutcasters to create a great shoutcasting dynamic. This is where when people say, oh, I'm an introvert, I can't work with people, I think unfortunately for this kind of job, you do need to talk to people. You do need to liaise with your teammate, your co-caster, and say, hey, I'm not really good at doing this. Can you help me do this for me? And this is where the communication comes in. Because you can tell a good chemistry shoutcasters rather, will have a great dynamic where they can communicate what they want and how they go. But if you don't talk to your shoutcasters, you'll start seeing shoutcasters cutting each other, yelling over each other, and you don't want that. Technically, it's sort of like a relationship. Non-romantic, but anyway. Coming back to that, you have to be energetic, and voice control is very important. Now, I want to really highlight voice control because when I first shoutcasted as a woman, my voice is naturally high-pitched. And the biggest thing that I actually heard when I first started was that, oh my God, your voice is so loud, it hurts my ears, it's so shrieky. So at first I was offended because, you know, it's like, I can't control that, I'm a girl, but actually you can. You can actually do it. I don't know if you guys saw that video just now where I pulled my voice down. And in a lot of situations, a lot of shoutcasters actually get, I would say, voice coaching, you know, the same ones that they have from singers. Yeah, same one. So you guys need to be able to control your voice. So how exactly do you become an esports hosts or shoutcasters. So the first one I would say is to get yourself out there. The first one is via connections. So this is where research is very, very needed. Get to know all of these people that I mentioned, the tournament organizers, find out who's out there. Get to know the community. If there is a forum, I know that Twitter is great for Valorant, Facebook is great for MLBB and PUBG Mobile. Go in there, go in the comments and say like, hey, I'm interested in shoutcasting. Here's my video. And please contact me here if you want. Be shameless, plug yourself out there. Because in Malaysia, we don't have enough good shoutcasters. We have the older gen shoutcasters like me, but we don't have any newer ones. So yes, please, I want to see more new shoutcasters out there. And if you got to know the players and other shoutcasters, they can help refer you in the right direction as well. So do mock hosting or shoutcasting and post it on internet. I've mentioned that before. So one of the moments that I've did before is that I would actually mute one of the tournaments that's happening on YouTube and I would shoutcast over it. I would do like maybe one short round, I'll clip it, put it on TikTok. And you know the power of TikTok now to go viral is huge and it will definitely be picked up. Especially in Bahasa Malaysia, I believe, because we don't really have a lot of Bahasa Malaysia casters, especially for games like Valorant. So that would grow really big. So same thing goes for shoutcasting as well, or you could even just do like a reel of yourself. I think the reel is the best way for you to do this. What is a reel exactly? Is basically you do a compilation of you doing different shoutcasting. You do a compilation of you making mock hostings of several events. You post it into one video, upload it on the internet, put it on YouTube, either unlisted, and you send it out with your emails. Think of it as like a resume for work. Now, everyone, when they apply for work here, is always like a CV or a resume. As for me, it's going to be a portfolio as well as a video. So get to work on that. Put as many events as possible. Put as many collaborations that you can. Show people why your value is there as a shoutcaster, more than just knowing the game. So after that, volunteer to host or shoutcast grassroots or community events to get your name known. So in a lot of university events, a lot of local tournaments are very small. Basically, maybe not even any prize pools. Sometimes they just do it for fun. Volunteer yourself, because sometimes within these communities there are people who run the bigger events and they see you out there. For me personally, when I was in university, I hosted our first ever LAN Dota 2 event. And I had no choice because no one wanted to do it. It was only me. So I went there, I hosted, and suddenly, guess who comes by? Esports Malaysia head. And he liked my hosting so much that he brought me into a bigger tournament that was happening in 2 months to kind of bring up more talent in the future. So yeah, if you are in university still, you still see all of these events, please, please go and volunteer, even if it is not paid. And now, join talent searches. As I mentioned before, talent searches now are not as common as they used to be, but some games do have them. MLBB is one of them. It's called the MLBB Newborn Talent Search. And while that's not necessarily might not be the game you want to do, but I've seen situations where shoutcasters just do whatever game they can and slowly move toward the game that they want. Because at the end of the day, exposure is what brings you out there. The idea that you're able to shoutcast will bring you out there. In Malaysia itself, I don't know if you know, I shoutcast maybe 3 to 4 games. Valorant is my main game. I also do PUBG Mobile. I do Free Fire. I've done MLBB. I've done Wild Rift. So it's not necessarily because I like those games, but the idea of getting that exposure to move to the things I want is there, grabbing opportunity. And now also for PUBG Mobile, I know that every year they have a PUBG Mobile caster search as well, where they have a whole documentary that you can join every year. But the idea is that you must join the documentary, but you know, if you're already wanting to do that, why not, right? But yeah, coming back to this, I think that for the most part, because this job is freelance, and I would say that a lot of jobs are scarce until you get to, I think for me, I started in 2016, I only found success in 2020. I would say that do not quit your day jobs for this. Do not quit your day jobs to do this full time. This is just an option of career out there. And I think like when I first started, I think I was doing this on weekends and night times. I would take days off to go and do these for the bigger events. But I didn't quit my job until I think it was last year. Last year was the only time I actually started quitting my work because I was burned out at work and I ended up getting more jobs. So this is a situation where you have to figure out what is more important. Like for me, I was starting to earn more than my usual day job salary, which is why I quit my job. Well, technically, no, I quit my job because I was burned out. But anyway, coming back into this, it's also because like you need to figure out like, are you able to have that starving artist mentality? Are you able to do full time and not get paid? So this is where you need to find that balance in chasing your dreams as well as chasing your full-time job. But yeah, I think, wow, that was pretty fast. Actually, I'm on time. Wow, okay. But yeah, right now I'm done with this. If you guys have any questions at all, if you guys want to ask me anything, feel free to ask me. You guys are good? Okay, so anyways, if you guys do have any questions later, you guys can reach me on Instagram at underscore Tashbani. Just send me a DM. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And hi, Lee, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Natasha. Would you be okay to come out to the screen for one? Yep, all good. All right, thank you so much. We never know so much about showcasters until listening to you. And as you can see from the videos and everything, very charismatic. Thank you so much. So, as a token of appreciation, we actually have some car stickers for you. All right. So on these 2 car stickers, there are different codes. All right, I'll read it up to you. Choose whatever that fits you think you relate to more, and let's see how it goes, all right? So the first one is, I don't get paid enough to fix my car. Well, some of us do experience it sometimes. All right. And the second one is, 20% of my job is actually driving to the office. Nah. As you can see from the video, Tash works at home, has a nice setup, you know. So I guess I know which one you're going for. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Tash Bani.